Yo, it's Trent. Hope everyone's having a good day, good weekend. Make sure you sub, share, like, comment, all that. Check out my other stories. And we got the craziest things we've used to smoke, right? Or we've smoked out of. Now, of course, there's normal ones, right? Like apples and all the normal things, like the equipment, the actual proper equipment for smoking, right? But today we're just talking about the unusual things and weird things and crazy things we've used and seen, right? So first is first. The first time we ever smoked was actually out of an apple, so that's pretty cool, right? But we got to talk about the weird things. Now, the first time we ever used a weird object to smoke, I can still remember this. I was like 15. I was real young, right? And we were riding around bikes on our bikes, right? And we had this place where we would go, and we usually would never smoke there because it was in the middle of the woods, and we were such paranoid little kids about it that, like, we were worried we would set, like, the grass on fire, or, like, we'd set, like, old leaves on fire, and then they'd know we were smoking. Like, that's how paranoid we were, right? So, we're looking for a place to, like, chill and smoke finally, right? We find one, but no one has a bowl or pipe or anything, and we can't go buy one because we're, like, 15, right? Well, what do we use? We used our friend's bike peg, right? Like, you know when you used to ride on your friend's bike and you could, like, hold onto their shoulder, you're just holding onto their shoulders, whatever it is, right? And you're standing on the pegs. We used one of those, right? He just pulled the peg off his bike, and it was pretty small, and it was really nasty looking, right? Like, it was dirty. You could tell he was grinding stuff with it. But the inside was, like, fine. It didn't look too gross. Like, you could put your finger in there, and it tightened if you spun it. I don't know exactly how those things work, right? But obviously, it was like not just a complete hole, like there was some mechanism inside, right? But we figured out a way that if you just kind of put or we didn't even have to clog it. I think we just cleaned it, right? Like we shoved a paper towel through it, and I was thinking we left it in there, but there's no way we left it in there. That wouldn't make sense, right? So we just have the peg, and I remember he had this huge nug, and like if it was now, I'm sure we could find a more effective way. Like I would just use a water bottle. Like you could just cut a hole in a water bottle and use that, but we didn't know that, right? And of course you can use cans, but again, we're not thinking like that. So we just put this giant nug in a peg, a bike peg, and lit it, and it was hitting the other side like a blunt. So that's pretty gnarly, right? So we could talk about cans and water bottles though, because like this, like a water bottle, if let's say you dumped out the water, right, to about here, if you cut a giant hole in the side of it, correct? And then what else do you gotta do? I mean, you could take off the top, like the cap, and you grab some tin foil and poke a bunch of tiny holes in it with what's it called? With like a thumbtack or the things you clean your teeth with, like a toothpick, right? And then you could just sprinkle it on top. You light it, you have a water bottle bong, right? Just like a bong. I mean, just out of a water bottle, and it's not glass, right? Like, no matter what you have, you can pretty much smoke out of it. But we used other things besides an apple, right? Like, there was this one time, my grandma, right, at her house, she'd always buy these corn stalks, and they would have these corn, obviously, it would have corn on them, right? But some of them would be nasty, like you couldn't eat them, right? Like they were just gross, or squirrels would get to them. So one time we decided to try to hollow one out. Like, hey, what if we could smoke out of a corn on the cob thing, right? And it was already pretty much destroyed because, like I said, a squirrel ate it or something. It was all like ripped up, like halfway broken, right? And we break it, and obviously there's like, I don't know what to call it, like the inside of the corn, there's like corn guts, you know? And we cleaned that out, and it was kind of gross, right? But it was like the corn when it has like the black on it and the yellow. Well, obviously it has yellow, but you get what I'm saying? Like it was like messed up corn, like it looked gross. And so we like dig out the inside of it, and we make a little choke, like the tiniest little choke hold, like little, not, I said choke hold, choke hole, right? And we made a little thing, and we tried smoking out of it, and it barely worked. We were able to take like 2 hits, and it tasted weird. It tasted just earthy, right? Because we were hitting out of a corn thing. Never tried it again, right? But I have an important thing to talk about because this is not very good. So, of course, there's always this, not saying, but people know that if you really needed to in an emergency, people smoke out of Bibles, right? Now, I'm not a religious man, but I know that people are, so I'm not going to usually offer that. I'm not going to be like, hey, let's just smoke in a Bible, right? But sometimes you're at a party, right? And no one has papers. No one has a bowl. No one has anything, right? and you're asking the person whose party it is, hey man, I don't mean to be disrespectful in the slightest at all, but do you have like a can or an apple or a Bible or something we can use to smoke up with, right? And you would think someone like would have any option besides the Bible. Like someone must have an apple, or there must be a Coke can or water bottle I can use around here. No, there really wasn't. I mean, I don't know why this dude had such a weird house, but it was all plastic cups and like used drinks. Like imagine going to Wendy's, right? And you order a large drink. That's like what the cups were in the house, like a bunch of cleaned out versions of those, right? And they would just fill up the water. And this is a party, right? So it was interesting, but I was like, whatever, man. Like, I just need something to smoke out. So the dude's looking for a while, and he finds like this miniature Bible, like not like one of the big normal Bibles, but it's like a small version, right? Now, me and my friend are like, fuck it. It's about the size of, you know, a joint paper if you really needed it to be. So we just took out like 3 pages and rolled it. But the problem was we weren't thinking there's probably pages without ink on them, right? Towards the end. I don't know. I haven't read the Bible, right? But we used these pages with all this ink on it when there's probably pages with less ink, right? It tasted horrible. Like it just tasted like nasty chemicals, right? But it did work. So just thought I'd put that out there. And I'm trying to think before I end this story, because I don't want to end this story and then I'm sitting here 20 minutes later going, oh, how could I forget about that? You know, so give me not a couple minutes, but just give me a second to try to think if there's anything else we've smoked out of, because there's been some interesting things, you know what I'm saying? There was the time, I mean, this has nothing to do with, well, yeah, this is a weird way to smoke. When the cart broke, and we had a brand new cart, and it broke open, we just poured it into a pill, took it, and, like, it doesn't really matter. It was weird, right? Oh, the hand technique. How could I forget this, right? So you've heard all the ways of smoking, right? I've talked, in this video alone, I've talked about cans and Bibles and apples and corn and just weird stuff, a bike peg, right? But the hand technique was something I Googled, right? I Googled ways to smoke when I was like 13 or 14. Not 13, that's too young, but like 14 or 15, right? And it said you could just hold the nug in your hands like this, right? You could light the end of it and just... And I was like, there's no way you can do that. Like, that sounds like you'll just burn your hand or waste the nug, or that sounds like a horrible idea, right? But we had this tiny nug, and we decided to try it. And my friend, he was more of a warrior than I was at the time, right? So he's holding it like he has it clasped. I don't know how to say this. He had it held in his hand right in this part, right? Like the armpit of your finger. And he's holding this nug out like this, but he's like keeping his thumb firm, so like it's held in there, you know, like if you were holding a cigarette, but like with this part, like he was holding it hard, you know. And he just and we were outside, so I had to make a shield for him, and he hits it, and he smoked the bud like from his hand. Like, that's insane. I've never seen that before besides that. So you want to talk about crazy things we've smoked with, or weird ways we've smoked, that is definitely up there with the bike peg. But alright, hope you guys enjoyed. Make sure you sub, share, like, comment, check out my other videos, and be safe. Thanks for watching, and peace out.